Have you ever wondered how a town you've always been familiar with could suddenly feel too scary to live in? For Na-young, this wasn't a nightmare. This was her reality on the day of December 11th, 2008. I'm Detective Obscura. I'll be taking you deep into the shadows of the Cho Doo-soon case, a crime so brutal and gruesome it scarred not only its victim, but an entire nation. This isn't just a story about evil. It's about survival, trauma, and the chilling aftermath that still lingers today. 8:30 a.m. The city is just waking up. Na-young, an 8-year-old little girl bundled in her winter coat, is making her way to school. Records did not allow the release of the victim's true identity. She's alone, trusting, and unaware that danger is watching her every move. Cho Doo-soon, then 56, is lurking nearby. He's a man with a long criminal history: assault, theft, and a previous rape conviction. This morning, he's already drunk, his mind clouded, his intentions lethal. But can it be considered an excuse? He approaches Na-young near a small church, asking her for help. Maybe it's his tone or maybe it's the setting, but she follows him inside. The heavy church door closes behind them, muffling the sounds of the city. The hallway is dim, the air thick with cold and silence. Cho leads her to the church bathroom at the back. The door clicks shut. The world outside disappears. Inside that cramped bathroom, the nightmare begins. Cho's demeanor shifts instantly. He strikes Na-young in the face, again and again, until her cheek splits open and blood runs down her skin. He bites her cheek, leaving a deep, ragged wound. She tries to scream, but his hands are already at her throat, squeezing the air from her lungs. She struggles, but he's too strong. When she wakes, she's even more disoriented. Cho is still there. He drags her to the sink and forces her head under freezing water, holding her down until her body goes limp again. The water is so cold it burns, and the sound of it splashing on tile is the only thing she can hear. Then comes the worst. Cho rapes Na-young with such violence that her internal organs, her abdomen, lower abdomen, and pelvis are catastrophically damaged. Medical reports would later reveal that 80% of her lower organs had been destroyed. The injuries are so severe, so deliberate, that it's almost surgical in its cruelty. When he's finished, he leaves her on the cold, wet bathroom floor, the water still running, and flees the church. Blood, fingerprints, and DNA are left behind, silent witnesses to the horror. Minutes pass. The church is silent except for the endless running water. Na-young, barely conscious, is bleeding out, her body in shock. Neighbors, hearing faint cries, rush inside. The sight that greets them is almost too much to bear. A small, broken child, soaked and shivering, clinging to life. The paramedics arrived, and at the hospital, it was a blur of white lights and rushing footsteps. Surgeons work for hours to save her life. The damage is so extensive that she must use a colostomy bag for months. Later, she'll require surgery for an artificial anus. Her physical scars are permanent, but the psychological wounds are only beginning to dig deeper for this little girl. Cho Doo-soon doesn't get far. Within hours, police apprehended him. He's found with the victim's blood still on his clothes. His breath reeks of alcohol. He claims he remembers nothing, but the evidence is overwhelming. His criminal record is long, 17 or 18 previous convictions, including another rape in 1983. Many of his crimes were committed under the influence of alcohol, a pattern that will soon become central to his defense. The legal proceedings begin. Prosecutors, faced with the sheer brutality of the crime and Cho's history, seek a life sentence. But the court's decision shocked the nation. Cho's lawyers argue that he was severely intoxicated at the time of the crime, suffering from alcohol-induced psychosis. They claim he was not fully in control of his actions and that his age and mental and physical weakness should be considered. South Korean law allows for reduced sentences if a crime is committed under severe intoxication or mental impairment. The court accepted this argument, making Cho's life sentence reduced to just 12 years. The trial becomes a second ordeal for Na-young. She is forced to testify multiple times, even as she recovers from surgery, sometimes with her colostomy bag visible in court. The prosecution fails to use available video evidence, meaning she must relive the trauma in front of strangers. The government later compensates her family for these violations, but the damage is already done. News of Cho's sentence spreads quickly. The public is outraged. Over 876,000 people signed petitions demanding stricter punishment and legal reform. The case exposes a dangerous leniency in the justice system, especially for sexual crimes committed under the influence of alcohol. Lawmakers propose the Cho Doo-soon law, aiming to restrict sex offenders' movements and increase surveillance. Electronic ankle monitors, new police patrols, and more surveillance cameras are introduced. But for Na Young and her family, the trauma is ongoing. They moved away from their home, seeking safety and anonymity. Despite her young age, Na Young shows remarkable resilience, recovering about 70% after intensive psychiatric treatment and continuing her education while avoiding media exposure to minimize further trauma. On December 12, 2020, Cho Doo-soon was released from prison after serving his 12-year sentence. He returns to Ansan, less than a kilometer from Na Young's former home, under heavy surveillance and with an ankle monitor. His release reignites public anger and protests. Security costs for monitoring him soar, with over 200 million won spent in the first 4 months alone. In 2024, Cho violates his curfew, wandering outside at night for about 40 minutes. The court sentences him to 3 more months in prison, rejecting his pleas for leniency. Later that year, Cho relocates again, this time just 2 kilometers from his old home, near several schools and daycare centers. The community was on edge. Police increased patrols, and a special security center is considered for the area. The psychological impact of this case is immense. For Na Young, the trauma is complex and ongoing. Flashbacks, nightmares, anxiety, and a shattered sense of safety. Being forced to testify, especially as a child, only deepens these wounds. For Cho, his repeated use of alcohol as both shield and weapon is a pattern seen in many violent offenders. Alcohol lowers inhibitions, but it does not create evil intent. The court's willingness to accept intoxication as a defense exposes a flaw in the system, a loophole that, in this case, became a license for horror. Some whisper of deeper conspiracies. Was Cho protected by connections, or was the system simply broken? The fact that he wrote over 300 letters claiming innocence, while never expressing remorse, only adds to the unease. The Cho Doo-soon case is more than a crime. It's a wound that refuses to heal. Na Young's life was forever changed. The system that should have protected her failed at every turn, and Cho Doo-soon, though watched, is still free. What does justice look like for a crime that never truly ends? Should intoxication ever excuse such brutality? And how many more monsters hide behind the mask of legal loopholes? If this case unsettled you, share your thoughts below. What would true justice look like for Na Young? Should the law ever excuse violence for any reason? Like, comment, and subscribe to join me as we unseal another chilling case next time, where the line between reality and the supernatural grows even thinner. Stay curious. Stay safe.